Hey guys, my name is Matt Butterick, and I'll be covering the J.M. Smucker Company for my final project. Let's see, here is a quick snapshot of all the brands that they currently own. They cover everything from jellies and jams to pet foods and even coffee. Here is a timeline of the J.M. Smucker Corporation. So J.M. Smucker was founded by Jerome Monroe Smucker, founded in 1897 in Orville, Ohio, and became incorporated in 1921. They went public in 1959 with 165,000 common shares. In the last 20 years, Smuckers has really expanded their brands with the purchasing of top companies like Jif, Crisco, Folgers, and Big Heart Pet brands. Some of their latest commitments to the supply chain have been building new facilities and consolidating others. They have recently committed $70 million to consolidating the coffee production into New Orleans. So here's a SWOT kind of showing their strengths and weaknesses. So some of their strengths, they have a very strong distribution system and supply chain, and they do partner with some good technology companies. Their weaknesses, however, are their lack of innovation with their products. They're extremely reliant on big box stores like Walmart and such. 85% of their sales are U.S. based as well. Some of the opportunities, though, emerging international trade markets, staying on top of the new technology platforms, and partnering with other companies. Biggest threats that I found were they're struggling to appeal to the younger generations. Um, they need to become a little bit more agile in their product expansion area. Like I said, they are lacking in innovation of their products and the sustainability of their supply chain. I'll definitely hit a lot on that a little bit later. Here's just a quick reminder of the five competitive forces that we're dealing with. So the threat of new entrants. So Smuckers doesn't have many threats coming their way. Honestly, it's just too difficult for a new brand to bump such a powerhouse without having unlimited funds. Honestly, is what I found. To be able to make a dent into Smuckers, you'd have to come in with high quality products at a very low production cost, and then be able to somehow fight them when it comes to distribution and shelf space. Bargaining power of suppliers. So Smuckers, their big play when it comes to the supply chain is loans. Over the past couple of years, Smuckers has loaned over $3.6 million to over 16,500 smallholder farms. This allows them to have the power when it comes to the negotiating table. They ensure that they are the only buyers, so the farmers have to sell for less. This helps them get the cheapest price because the farmers have nowhere else to go with their products. Um, so the bargaining power of the buyers. The Smucker's brand is so well known, has been long established brand that people know it and they trust it. They don't really ask too many questions about it. They see it, they grab it off the shelf. This helps with the retail. These big box brands, they have to buy it. I mean, here's a couple of big players. I'm sure we've all been to most of these, at least one for sure. Smucker's real threat is themselves and their lack of diversity. They have only recently began expanding into new flavors and products. Their quote unquote new coffee brand of 1865 is their premium coffee. Um, it came out about 10 years after premium coffee really started hitting the shelves. But they are trying to do a little bit more research and development to help establish their brand and try to catch up and stay modern and definitely hit that younger generation. So here's a couple of their rivals. You got Kellogg's, General Mills, Welch's. Um, Biggest thing that I found was anytime there was a big kind of swing in the market, usually just has to do with the price of the product at the time. With Smuckers being able to keep their costs so low, they rarely fall behind any of their competitions, and if they do, it's not for very long. Having that ownership of their suppliers helps them tremendously. So problems. Some of the problems that Smuckers is running into is their inventory is beginning to grow faster than their turnover of products. Since they practically own their suppliers and is heavily crop based, they have to keep buying. inventory. Otherwise, crops and most importantly, cash flow gets wasted. So Trillium and Calvert are two companies looking to hold Smuckers more accountable when it comes to their sustainability. They've made several attempts to become more sustainable, but at this point, it begins to look more like lip service rather than actually doing something about the issue. So, Trillium and Calvert, they are both companies that recognize environmental, social, and governance of the company as part of their investment strategy. They have urged Smuckers to disclose their climate-related risks in the coffee supply chain um, for a second time. The first time was in 2010. So Smuckers responded with their coffee initiatives. So big things are 10% of their retail purchases will be certified coffee, and they have partnered with World Coffee Research and others to better their use of crops and to better help families with the farming industry. So a huge issue they face is with their use of abundant herbicides and pesticides. Um, they recently scored a 2 out of 30 on an evaluation that was done by As You Sow, it's an environmental organization. So you could get a possible of 30. As you can see, the highest company was only at 18, which says something, but to be close to the bottom is not good. So biggest thing for them is that using these pesticides and herbicides are not only not good for the consumers, but they affect the supply chain. They degrade the soil health, they kill the pollinators, they create erosion. Um, Big thing that has been coming out is this stuff is not just published in articles anymore. This stuff is now being published in public articles. So it can be a simple web search, and this kind of stuff can pop up. This could possibly lead to legal issues with the use of pesticides. So it's just something that they should really start being aware of. So all in all, Schmucker's supply chain is airtight and it's aligned with their competitive strategy. They keep their costs low by having strong influence over suppliers and buyers. Um, so they don't spend a lot; they make a lot. They have an extreme amount of cash flow, which allows them to buy top companies like Jif and like Crisco and like Folgers. They also, I noticed, they keep their employee count extremely low. It's usually around 7,000 people, and this happens by buying those brands. They find out who does the best work within those brands, who do they absolutely need within those brands, and then they get rid of the rest. So you'll see it spike when they buy a company, and then you'll see it slowly come back down to that 7,000 mark. Frankly, it's kind of impressive. But biggest issue that they're currently having is their transparency with their supply chain. Um, they're a little old school, a little slow to the curve when it comes to getting with the new generations. Our generation was kind of the forefront of we want things to be environmental. There's a big environmental push for stuff. So not only are they lacking when it comes to being environmentally conscious and actually doing what they're talking about, but then their lack in technological advertising as well is pretty low, um, which could really affect the younger generations from purchasing their product.